Hi, how you doing? This is Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. I love Remnant from the Ashes, developed by Gunfire Games. It was my game of the year 2019, and has easily become one of my favorite video games of all time. For me, the game is a joy to play, and I love just about everything about it. The gameplay, the visuals, the music, the narrative, and all the deep lore tied to it. Oh, and all of the fantastical weapons and armor sets you get to collect. I love everything about Remnant from the Ashes, including and especially the boss battles. I love boss battles in video games in general, but the bosses in Remnant hold a special place in my heart. They're such memorable encounters and characters, from their designs, to their mechanics and movesets, to their epic boss music. Specifically, the world bosses in particular were one of, if not the biggest highlight in Remnant from the Ashes. Now, to be objective and fair, I must admit, while there are some truly great boss battles in Remnant from the Ashes, there are many others that are, well, let's just say, lacking. Namely, the dungeon bosses, because let's just be transparent here, dungeon bosses are just elite enemies with some slight cosmetic additions and one or two gimmicks and mechanics tied to them. While they certainly can be fun to fight and most definitely put up a challenge, they always paled in comparison to the creative and far more fleshed out world bosses. But even when it came to the world bosses, there were some fair criticisms to be made. Namely, the overabundance and reliance on adds and mobs, just a litany of normal enemies supporting the boss and overwhelming the player. Now, I would personally argue that a majority of the world bosses find a good balance, but I understand the criticism nonetheless. So now, with all that preamble and context out of the way, we come to the sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, Remnant 2. Easily what was my most anticipated video game of the year 2023, and as it currently stands, after having put a stupid amount of hours into the game, God, that's kind of embarrassing. Anyways, I can now safely say, after having played Remnant 2 extensively, that Remnant 2 is currently my game of the year 2023. Almost every aspect of the original is upgraded and improved upon in this sequel. This includes especially the boss battles. And we're talking bosses across the board, not just the world bosses, which are still as creative and unique and fleshed out and in-depth as ever, but also the dungeon bosses. Some of these dungeon bosses look, sound, and feel like world bosses. Even though you can tell, once again, that these dungeon bosses are modeled off of elite enemies, that's where it begins and ends. They have more than enough unique visual flair, multiple distinct movesets and attacks, multiple unique gimmicks and mechanics solely unique to them. And the majority of these bosses don't rely on adds and mobs for support. It is clear, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that developer Gunfire Games listened to criticism of the bosses found in Remnant from the Ashes and did everything they could possible to make every single boss in Remnant 2 be fun, challenging, and memorable. Which is why I have to ask, where are all the goddamn YouTube videos about them? Every time I go searching for Remnant 2 videos on YouTube, it's nothing but guides for how to obtain certain loot or build videos. Guides and builds everywhere. Where are the boss tier lists? Where are my top 5, top 10 favorite bosses from Remnant 2? Well, if no one else is gonna create this content, I guess I gotta step up to the challenge and fill the void. These boss battles deserve some appreciation, damn it, so I'm gonna give it to them. So, let's begin. Wanderers and travelers alike, welcome to my top 5 favorite boss battles from Remnant 2.
My sister never told me, never knew. So many ages wasted, nurturing dreams, rearing them like children, always coddling, never tasting. But now, Nightweaver's juicy plot has led to such delicious outcomes. Come here, treat. This world holds such delectable delicacies, but you... oh, you are
Number 5. The Nightweaver. The Fae goddess of dreams, twisted and corrupted after the joining of the Fae and Dran worlds. Now instead of nurturing dreams, she feeds on them. Before we even get to the actual boss fight, just the lore and the build-up, the narrative build-up to the Nightweaver is excellent. From the beginning of her storyline, there is a constant looming dread. You see the effects her reign of terror has on the world. You hear the fear in characters' voices when they talk about her. Again, the narrative build-up to the boss is just excellent. Then we have the Nightweaver herself. Her design is nothing short of badass and horrifying. Are you afraid of creepy looking ghosts? Well, I'm sorry to say, but the Nightweaver is going to be absolute nightmare fuel for you. God, just her animations and movements alone, so unnatural and ethereal. I love the aesthetic of the Nightweaver and how Gunfire really played into the horror genre with this boss. Now, as for the actual fight itself, it's everything you could possibly want in a good, solid, well-designed boss fight. A variety of readable, telegraphed attacks, both melee and ranged. In her first phase, she has a lunge that ends with a ground slam, some homing missiles where you have to time your dodges just right, these gooey black ichor projectiles that she'll barrage the place with, and of course her most memorable and most important attack, where she'll open up her chest, exposing her heart, while summoning 4 spider minions to rush you and kamikaze you. This attack is essential when trying to obtain the alternative kill for Nightweaver, as it provides an opportunity for the player to deal a ton of crit damage and possibly destroy the Nightweaver's heart. Anyways, phase 1 of the Nightweaver isn't so bad, a solid challenging fight. Her attack patterns are easy enough to learn and dodge, and eventually you'll take her down. Well, that wasn't so hard. And now phase 2 begins inside the nightmare-haunted asylum. The Nightweaver now possessing a whole suite of new attacks, the vast majority of them being fast and vicious melee attacks. An assault of lunges, swipes, and strikes. Some of them paired with homing missile projectiles just for good measure. Timing your dodges and positioning are more important than ever, especially when she goes into the fucking walls. After enough time has passed or after dealing enough damage, the Nightweaver will retreat into the asylum walls and floor, where she will do one of two things. She'll either hunker down on the ceiling of a random part of the asylum and start endlessly spawning spiders while exposing her heart yet again, or, and far more terrifying, she's going to try and reach out and grab you if you're close to a wall and insta-kill you. Let me tell you, this insta-kill wall grab killed me so many fucking times when I first fought her. The existence of this insta-kill move alone adds so much more anxiety and tension to the fight. While both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Nightweaver each provide an excellent challenge and are just fantastically well-designed combat encounters, what really seals the deal for me when it comes to the Nightweaver is what wraps this beautifully nightmarish bow all together: her boss music. The intensity of this track, the non-stop intensity. It truly sells the feeling of fighting, running away from, and being chased by true horror. All that and more is why the Nightweaver is my 5th favorite boss in Remnant 2. Now then, some of you who have played Remnant 2 are going to think I'm fucking crazy for liking this boss more than the Nightweaver, for putting this boss in a higher position than the Nightweaver. But I have to be honest with all of you. I like what I like, and I can't deny how much I enjoy this boss fight. Don't get me wrong, I love the Nightweaver, But there's another boss in Lawsome that I love even more.
Enough room.
Number 4, the Huntress. I love the Huntress so much. She is objectively the most unique boss in the entire game. There is no other boss like her. She's not a dungeon boss. She's technically not a world boss, but she sure as hell has the design and movesets of one. She's an overworld roaming boss that stalks and hunts the player, eventually randomly ambushing the player or attacking if provoked. After taking enough damage, she'll retreat to a secluded hideout, where she and her mount will go to sleep and regain all their health. I just love this so much. It's so unique and creative and cute. Above all else, it's so cute. But while the Huntress and her steed are sleeping, the player has an opportunity to set up an ambush of their own, and then the real fight begins. I just love how it feels to fight this boss. It is so satisfying learning all her attack patterns and mechanics. She's a very readable, well-telegraphed boss. Oh man, and what a variety of moves and attacks. Various slashes and sweeps with her spear, using her steed to charge at you or stomp you, summoning raven familiars to rush you, charging up a ranged magical slash shockwave, and after you've dealt enough damage to her, she'll start empowering her spear and her mount with Fey Fire. Yet another elemental status effect to look out for when her normal spear attacks could already cause corrosion on you. I just love this boss fight, man. It is always a satisfying, challenging, fun experience for me. But while I love the fight and the mechanics, I can't deny I also really dig her design. This female Fey warrior donning a golden mask, riding atop this fantastical creature, utilizing an ornate spear, magic, summoning ravens to help her in battle. This is a hella badass fantasy character design if I've ever seen one. And then there's her music. Then there's the Huntress's music. Easily one of the best musical pieces in the entire game, and all of Remnant 2. Fucking listen to this! I love the Huntress. She's a great boss fight. I don't care what anyone else has to say about her. I love the Huntress. It's why she's my 4th favorite boss in Remnant 2. In Remnant from the Ashes, one of my favorite and one of the best bosses in the game was the Ravager, a legendary wolf deity of death of the Pan of Yesha. This was such a fantastic boss fight, from the aesthetic design of the Ravager to its variety of readable, telegraphed attacks, the destructible environment with these stone pillars that would shatter if attacked by the Ravager or if you dashed through them, how the Ravager would periodically retreat to go get Pan reinforcements who would cling onto his back, and who could forget the Ravager's alternative kill, where you don't actually kill him at all. Instead, you play him music and actually have a conversation with him. The Ravager boss fight was honestly one of the biggest highlights in Remnant from the Ashes, an iconic set piece from that game. So when it was revealed that the Ravager would be returning in Remnant 2, this time corrupted by the root, needless to say, my expectations were high, but oh boy did Gunfire deliver.
Your timing is fortuitous, Come. since I've seen one of your kind. But then, what is time to a god?
Number 3. Corrupted Ravager. Like the Nightweaver, the narrative build-up to this boss is fantastic, with both of the characters, Bedell of the Vaunt and the Pan-Flautist, warning you of the legendary Ravager, how it has betrayed the balance of Yeisha and sided with the Root. Then you actually meet the Ravager, and just like in Remnant from the Ashes, you have a conversation with him. They even got the same voice actor to reprise his role as the Ravager, and I just love that. That's so wonderful. Before the boss fight even begins, the back and forth between the Ravager is so engaging and interesting, with him sharing his philosophy and perspective on life and death. You are then presented with the legendary Red Doe of Yeisha, wounded, at the mercy of both you and the Ravager. The player is then given a choice. Do you side with the Doe or the Ravager? Okay, there's actually more choices than that, because get this. Just like in Remnant 1, in Remnant 2, the Ravager is one of the most unique bosses in the whole game, because unlike every other world boss, the Ravager has 4 alternative kills! So you'll have to face the Ravager 4 different times in order to obtain all the loot he has available. In that case, good thing the boss fight's an absolute banger. What I truly love and adore so much is how the corrupted Ravager of Remnant 2 is just a giant love letter and homage to the Ravager of Remnant from the Ashes. The Ravager has just about all of the same melee attacks he had in Remnant 1. His arena once again is a destructible environment with stone pillars that shatter if he attacks or moves through them. He'll periodically spawn reinforcements, this time popping out root hollows out of his back. And of course, obviously, there's an alternative kill where you just talk to the Ravager and don't end up fighting him at all. I simply love and adore the respect and reverence for the Ravager in Remnant 1. Don't fix what isn't broken, you know? Instead, simply add on to it. The Ravager this time around has some powerful new attacks and abilities, including one where he'll start rapidly spinning in place, sucking you towards him. A Cyclone of Death, one that you can knock him out of with enough damage dealt. He also now has this extremely damaging Howl with a massive area of effect where you have to get as far away from him as possible to not take massive damage. These powerful attacks aside, just like in Remnant 1, the Ravager has a plethora of melee attacks, swipes, slashes, bites, and this really cool backflip he'll do to damage the player and get some distance. All of these attacks and moves are very readable and well telegraphed, so just like in Remnant 1, the Ravager is a very satisfying boss to learn and master. And also, just like in the first Remnant, the Ravager is a visual spectacle, this one stoic and beastly, wolf god of death, now twisted and corrupted, made to look like this alien monster thanks to the Root. With the multitude of red glowing eyes, root branches sticking into his head, and that gross looking red growth on his back, the corrupted Ravager looks hideous. I love it. Finally, we have the corrupted Ravager's boss music, which is just a giant homage to the Ravager's boss music from Remnant from the Ashes, and it once again sounds so damn good. Just like in Remnant from the Ashes, the Ravager, once again, this time in Remnant 2, is one of my favorite boss battles in the game, being my third favorite boss in Remnant 2. Number 2. Sha'Hala, Guardian of Nehrud. The alternative boss fight, as opposed to Sha'Hala, Spectral Guardian of Nehrud, available by inserting the override pin into the core console, destabilizing the core of Nehrud, forcing Sha'Hala awake so that you may fight him physically in the flesh. Look, don't get me wrong, the Spectral version of Sha'Hala is still a fantastic boss fight, but I find the physical version of Sha'Hala to be so much more fun and so much cooler. Sha'Hala is the result of Gunfire Games playing Returnal and then saying to themselves, what if we made a boss like that in our game? And Sha'Hala was born. That's right, Sha'Hala is all about bullet hell, baby! We're talking dozens of projectiles at a time, slow moving and fast moving. We got missiles, we got lasers, and you've gotta dodge, you gotta maneuver, and you gotta position yourself through all of it. But once you deal enough damage, Phase 2 begins, baby, and Sha'Hala's just getting fucking started. All of his previous projectile attacks return, but now in new patterns and formations. He's also every once in a while gonna try and crush you with his giant fucking tail. I don't know why, but I love that attack so much. There's something about it I just find to be so cool. He'll also every once in a while summon a massive black hole on one side of the arena and try to suck you in, all while shooting out a massive laser from his chest, while starting to slowly move to the other side of the arena. He'll also lift his core into the sky and have it shoot 4 lasers that will rotate from side to side. Sha'Hala may seem like an overwhelming force at times, and that's because he can be. It's literally a giant alien god using the energies of the universe to try and kill you, all while continuously trying to use its power to stabilize a core that's about to go nuclear. Sha'Hala is objectively one of the harder boss fights to learn in Remnant 2. It certainly will take longer to master compared to other bosses. But you see, I played Returnal, and I love Returnal, so I was right at home with Sha'Hala, learning the patterns and the timing to perfectly time my dodges, while always keeping track of and aiming for the core for massive crit damage. Mechanically and design-wise, I love this fight. The challenge presented is so satisfying to overcome, but I also simply adore the visual spectacle of Sha'Hala. His truly alien design, so creative. Oh, and the scale of him adds so much to the spectacle. It really does look and feel like you're fighting an alien god. Oh, and the boss music! Oh my god, the soundtrack! I love Sha'Hala, Guardian of Nehrud, easily my second favorite boss in Remnant 2. But now that begs the question, what is my number 1 favorite boss from Remnant 2? Well, let's take a moment and talk about the root. the primary antagonist of the Remnant series. This invasive, corrupting force attempting to spread and consume all realities, all universes. They caused the apocalypse on Earth, nearly wiped out humanity. They put the Keeper of the Labyrinth, the caretaker of all realities, all universes, on his last legs, requiring him to need the help of a dreamer, Clementine, in order to help hold the root back from consuming everything. Even before Remnant from the Ashes, all the way back in Chronos before the Ashes, the root have always been a mystery. Who are they? What are they? Where did they come from? Do they have a leader? Well, all of these questions and more were finally answered in the last biome of Remnant 2, Root Earth. Now, this whole game series, Chronos, Remnant, and Remnant 2 have all been leading to this moment. Going to the Root homeworld, fighting them on their own turf, and facing their leader, their god, their creator. There was an astronomical amount of buildup leading towards the final boss of Remnant 2, and there was a lot riding on this final boss. And not just from a narrative standpoint, also a gameplay one, because the previous final boss of Remnant from the Ashes, the Nightmare, it left a lot to be desired for most folks. So I didn't know what to expect going into Remnant 2, what Gunfire Games had planned for the final boss of this game. I never could have expected, little could I have known, how I would be left in awe after fighting the final boss of Remnant 2, as it would not only be my favorite boss in the whole game, but go on to become one of my favorite boss battles of all time, and what I would argue is one of the greatest final bosses in all of video games. Wanderers and travelers alike, behold. Number 1, Annihilation. It's a fucking tree dragon demon god with a sword! At least in Phase 1. And what a hell of a Phase 1 is. We've got various sword strikes and slashes. We've got large AoE ground pounds and an arena-wide shockwave. We've got these energy orbs it can spawn, which if not destroyed fast enough will home in on you and fuck you up. Lastly, Annihilation can plunge its sword into the ground and tie you up in roots, causing the buildup of the Data Corruption Blight status effect. So in Phase 1, you've got a fair bit to contend with. But all of these attacks are well telegraphed, easily readable, and they all come with unique sound cues, letting you know at just the right time when to dodge. Phase 1 of Annihilation may seem daunting at first, but this is a boss designed for everyone to learn and master. With Annihilation, it's very easy to get into a flow state, where you're completely immersed in the experience, where you're always keeping your eyes on the boss to read his moves, listening in intently for the sound cues. Before you know it, you're performing what I could best describe as a dance with Annihilation. Sure, he hits hard, but you can outmaneuver the hits. And with his whole head being a giant weak spot, you can consistently land crit damage, which just makes damaging Annihilation all the more satisfying when you see all those red numbers go off. But eventually, you will whittle down the health bar of Annihilation and defeat Phase 1. But then Phase 2 begins, and the truth is revealed. A dreamer? Annihilation is a dreamer? A dreamer was the source of the root this whole time? Mind blown. Anyways, since you're fighting a dreamer now, you know what that means. Reality's about to get a bit weird. Annihilation, now using their dreamer powers, completely alters the arena, bending reality itself. You now have to deal with a timed, wide-sweeping sword attack. Watch out for the tentacles on the side. Watch out for these telegraphed bursts of energy on the ground. Watch out for this arena-wide slam attack. Oh, and after you deal enough damage, watch out for... That's right, Annihilation will now periodically shift between Phase 1 and Phase 2, always shifting right before unleashing a powerful attack that you have to remember Annihilation was going to do, and you have to be ready to dodge. It's a lot. It's honestly a lot. But that's why I love this boss fight! Annihilation is a culmination of all of your learned skills throughout playing Remnant 2. Learning enemy attack patterns, timing your dodges just right, listening for sound cues, and tinkering and customizing your build so that you might gain even the slightest edge in a fight. Annihilation is this entire game series in its purest form. Good versus evil, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds, and awe-inspiring visual spectacle. Oh, visual spectacle indeed. I love the aesthetic design of Annihilation. It's such a badass creature design, man. It's a fucking tree dragon demon god with a giant sword. How could anyone not love this? Oh, and speaking of things to love, the boss music. The soundtrack for Remnant 2 was composed by Rob Westwood. Now, Mr. Westwood did a phenomenal job on the entire soundtrack for Remnant 2. It is truly one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. I will argue that without hesitation. But the final boss theme for Annihilation may be his magnum opus. One of the best pieces of video game music I have ever heard in my entire life. No exaggeration, no hyperbole. I legitimately get teary-eyed and emotional listening to this music. It's so fucking powerful. So yeah, all of that and more is why my number one favorite boss in Remnant 2 is the final boss of Remnant 2, Annihilation. This boss has also become one of my favorite video game bosses of all time. It's just that damn good, and I love it that damn much. Anyways, that's been a video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorite bosses from Remnant 2 are in the comments below. And if you like this video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you want to help out and support the video and get more people to see and watch the video, then please share it on social media, Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook. And if you want to help out and support me directly so I can keep making videos like this, please consider donating via the Super Thanks feature here on YouTube, or by clicking on the links and donating via my Coffee or Buy Me a Coffee pages, links in the description down below. Anyways, once again, that's been a video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.